Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Emmanuel. Today we're going to be learning about the encodable and decodable. We're going to see how this works. We're going to see the advantages. And actually, this is going to be a continuation of our last two videos on the URL sessions data task. So if you want to follow along, then I'd recommend that you also watch that video. But I'm still going to leave a link to the basically the starter project, which is the complete project of the last two videos. So before we get to it, I'd like to just give a very quick shout out to Wahid, who won our last coupon, our last giveaway. And since this is the last video of this year, I'm going to give one more. So look forward to it, guys. All right, let's get to it. Okay, so this is our project from our last two videos, and this is exactly what we have. Simply what we're doing is we are making a post request and we're sending this data to the backend, right? And when we do that, we're going to receive a response of the exact same data with an ID, and we're going to print that right over here, or we print an error if there is. So what I'm going to do first of all is just to move this guy into a function, just so that I can keep the viewDidLoad cleaner or more scanty. So I'm going to say func, I'm going to call this create post, and I'm going to paste that right there. So in our viewDidLoad, I'm simply going to call create post. And we can go ahead and run this and just see whether everything works good. Okay, so we have an error. And I believe, yeah, from the last video, we actually did something here that was wrong. We're just trying to, I was trying to point out something that you should note. So this guy needs to be executed on the main thread, right? So I'm just going to remove that and let's run it again, and hopefully everything should be good. We can move on to today's agenda. Okay, so yep, everything works fine. We're creating a post. This is the body, this is the ID, and this is the title. Now, if I wanted to print the body of the title, what I'd have to do is right over here, I'm gonna go ahead and, because this is of type any, right? Yep, this is of type any, so I need to cast this as a dictionary. So I'm gonna say let you can say dict be equal to JSON response as, and let's do optional, and this is going to be of type string and any, just like that. So if I wanted access to the title, what I'm going to say is let title be equal to, I'm going to be using the dict this time, and here I'm going to pass in title, and this is optional, so I need to add a question mark like this. So if I went ahead to print this guy and say the title is, what am I doing here? Sweet. So if I went ahead to print the title like this, let's see what we're going to have. All right, so it worked good. This is a title. But if I wanted to print the body as well, I'm going to have to do the same thing and then write body like this, and then have like ID. But this isn't exactly very clean. We can actually do something that is way cleaner, way easier, and that is using the codable or the encodable or the decodable. All right, so that's what we're going to be doing in this video, and to do that is very easy. The first thing we need to do is to create a struct or create our object. So I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to call this file posts. Then if you look over here, the kind of data we're expecting is ID, title, and body. So I'm just going to create a struct that matches this data structure. So struct, I'm going to call this post, as I said, and first we're going to have the ID, and looking here, ID is of type integer, so I'm going to write int like that. Next, I'm going to have title. This is of type string. I knew how to fail the spelling. So I could do the same thing and write the body, but I could also just add a comma and write body like this. So the title, body are both of type string. Good, so we have our struct. The next thing we need to do, which is very important, is for our struct, our post, to conform to the decodable. Because what we want to do is to decode our JSON data into our Swift object directly. We don't want to have to, get the title, convert to a dictionary, and then extract the title like that. We want it to be done automatically. So what I'm going to do here is make post to conform to a decodable. And that's all we need to do over here. Now the next thing we're going to do is head over to our view controller, and I'm going to get rid of all of these things to keep here quite neat. And what we're going to do is we're going to say let post, because remember we're trying to create a post object. So post is going to be equal to, and we're going to use the Json decoder, because remember we're trying to decode. We're trying to decode our JSON data into our Swift object, which is post. So Json decoder, and we're going to create an instance of that and say decode. So the type takes two parameters. The type is the type of data, or the data structure we're trying to decode into, and in our case is post. So we're going to write post.self, and what data are we decoding? And we simply have data right here, so pass in data. Now this actually throws, so we need to handle it. So you can use your try and then the question mark or the bang, or you can use your do catch, right? So we have that done, and actually data is optional at this point, so you can actually safely unwrap it or do your checks, but I'm just going to force it because I'm quite sure it exists. Good. So now we have access to our post. You can see that it is post, and it's optional because it's going to try to decode. So now how do we access our maybe title and body? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say print, and here I'm going to say the title is, and I'm going to pass in post dot, and you can see over here we simply have access to our title, and because this is optional we have this. So you could decide to force this, or you could use a guard, but always go for the safer approach. All right, I'm just trying to be lazy. Okay, so how do we get the body? I'm sure you've guessed that already. You just have to say body, and we simply pass in body like this. So if we run this, we should see the title is, and then whatever the title is, that should be this guy, and then the body should be that one. So awesome, everything works very well, and you can see that it's actually pretty neat. So we have our Swift object somewhere, and then we can easily decode our JSON to match that. So if we have access to the kind of data or the kind of response we're expecting from our backend, we can simply just create a model of that, and we just decode directly to that. And we wouldn't have to start converting to a dictionary and then doing all of that. So this is the first part of what I wanted to talk to you about. So the second thing I wanted to talk to you about is the encodable. So you can see how we were able to decode our JSON object into a Swift object. We can also do something, well, we can do the opposite. We can encode our Swift object into data to send to the backend. And it's actually very simple. We're going to see that now. So over here, we are sending a parameter. So we had to have, or we needed to have this as a dictionary. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to create a, what's it called? I'm going to create an object of our post, or post object. So I'm going to call this let new post be equal to, and this is going to be of type post. Then we're going to pass in ID. I'm just going to pass in 101. And then the title is, what should I call this? I don't always have problems with titles. Okay, encodable title, sweet. So this data was created using the encodable format, sweet. So now we have our new post, and this is of type post. Now we need to send this new post to the API, right? So over here where we're passing in data, we're going to pass in, what we're going to do instead is we're going to say Json Encoder. So it's almost like the decoder. So we're going to say Json Encoder, and then your brackets, and we're going to say encode. Now what value do we want to pass in? The value I want to pass in has to be of type, or has to conform to the encodable protocol. So if you head over here, this is our post that we want to send. So I'm going to pass in new post. Sweet. Now this is not going to work, and let's see why. It says instance method encode requires that post conform to encodable. And that's very simple to implement. So what we need to do is head over to post, and we need to conform to encodable, just like that. And if we go back, everything should be good. And I can actually get rid of this just so we don't confuse ourselves. And let's go ahead and run this, and everything should be working fine. So you can see over here that it actually worked. We can see the title is encodable title, which is what we have in our, where's that? Our post object right here, encodable title. And the body is this data was this, and that's exactly what is here. So you can see that we didn't have to, create like a dictionary kind of data and then use the JSON serialization to convert to a data object. If we have this in our code, we can simply use the encodable to simply convert that into data and then send to the backend. I believe this is actually very good. It's very easy, and we're going to be using this very well. You're going to be using it as you continue with your iOS journey. So feel free to play around with this. You can, modify your object, your model, and send some more data to the backend and decode using that. Just play around, try and see the limits and the benefits of this. So this brings us to the end of today's video. If you have any questions, by all means, leave it in the comment section. I'll definitely respond. And again, compliments of the season. It's nice to meet you guys at the end of this year. I look forward to seeing you next year, 2021. All right, and I forgot again, the coupon code for today's video is going to be 2021, so 2021. And good luck. See you next year.